everyone. It is Scotch for Dummies.
Where are we at?
Thursday Night Live.
I don't know. I don't recognize this place. Pretty cool bar.
I grabbed these dudes off the street.
Yeah, so quick, since Drew is not in charge tonight, may have some technical difficulties. Let us know if audio and video looks good. I think it should be. I think we dialed it in, but we'll see.
Somebody give us a thumbs up that you can hear us.
Except we're on the camera. I guess that's a problem, right?
Yeah, so this is going to be a fun night because I kind of put together tonight, with some people and with some things, and
there's a lot of mystery.
This is not our normal. So the last several weeks we've been doing the King of the Hill, where we take a whiskey that has won several weeks in a row, and then we put a new one against it to see how it goes. Well, tonight's different. Tonight we're going to go through a couple whiskeys. We're going to we actually have one of the guys online here that will be introducing a whiskey that he's got, and but I think it should be fun. How's your week going, guys?
It's Thursday.
Happy Thursday.
Cheers to
Thank
you
God.
guys.
Let me get through tomorrow. And happy Thursday to all of you.
I had a tooth ripped out. I've had a miserable 3 weeks, so I'm glad to be back. Nice to see you
I think
guys.
I'd rather have COVID. I've been through that, and it was.
Let's not get carried away, man. But it's good to be back at the bar. Nice to see everybody. Molly's very excited to have you guys back.
I'm sure she'll be wandering down here in about 45 minutes.
There we go. There we go.
No,
she knows what time it is.
That's right.
So should we say hi to everybody?
Yeah,
let's see who's all here tonight. So I think Tom was in first.
He was, because we left him hanging on the pre-show.
We did.
That was
the Bilbo, Tennessee.
All right. Hello.
How you doing?
Trooper Henry's here.
Good to see Trooper. Zach.
Yeah, Zach's here.
Pierre. We saw them on the pre-show. Bobby J. Good to see you, sir.
What aisle is Bobby in tonight?
He's a 23. Bob's a 23.
Can't wait.
11.
All right.
Minions
in here.
Hey, Chuck.
Malt Minions in. Oh, look at this guy.
Special guest.
Whiskey folks.
Who's
Very
that
good.
guy?
Very good.
Wonder what he knows
We're
about
going to talk
whiskey.
a little bit about him later.
Yeah, he'll be on.
Yep.
I see his lovely wife is in as well.
Of course he is.
So that's good.
Matthew, good evening. And Wesley, Wizzy D.
Wizzy D.
Good to see you
Right
too.
on.
Dave Daniels, hey, from
Hey, how we
Facebook.
doing?
That's kind of cool. We got
Nice.
someone watching over on Facebook. That's good.
And
somebody
Benoit
from
from Montreal.
Nice to
Hello.
see you. Nice to see
Hello,
you.
Ben.
Cheers.
Well,
Let's,
so
all right.
So, Andrew,
Yeah.
before we get started here, why don't you talk to us a little bit, because there's a mystery bottle.
There's
What
mystery
do we know about this mystery
What do
bottle?
you
We
mean
don't
by-
know where
so-
it came from,
yes.
whose it is, none
Correct.
of that.
The
It
one,
looks like a liquid.
this is a liquid. It is a whiskey. I will tell you, it is single malt,
Okay.
but that's all I'm telling for now.
I mean, it's a tiny pour.
Can I ask
Well,
one
disappointed.
question? Was it poured from a glass bottle or a plastic bottle?
It's glass.
Oh.
Okay.
It's not a cheap bottle. It's not a CVS special.
All right.
So the next question is, who sent it to you, Andrew? Because we know you didn't buy it.
Is it a cask strength whiskey, or is it?
This is not cast strength, but I will not go any further than that.
Okay.
So
Is it a distillery edition bottling? Is this something I can go to the store and buy?
It's not an independent bottle.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
we're warming up with a little Klein leash just to get our palates warmed up. So that's
Yep.
what we've got in our glass right now. Obviously, there's a major color difference between the Klein leash 14 and whatever this is. We don't know ABV strength on this. We don't know if this is natural color, chill filtered, any of that stuff. Hopefully, we can figure that out.
Yep.
I mean, maybe we can, maybe we can't.
This
You
is
want
your
rock,
chance.
paper, scissors for it?
I was just gonna say this. Have you seen the TikTok
So-
thing where everybody's doing that with the taco shells and they slap the shit out of each
Yes. Yes,
So-
I have.
So what we're going to do here, we're going to go through our typical tasting process. We'll nose it, do a couple nosings, then hit the liquid
All
and
right.
water if
All
we need to.
Okay.
See what it tastes like.
Have at it.
All right.
Let's do this the right way. Talk me through it.
So this is something we haven't had Sean's nose in a while. So this can be a good way to pull things out.
Initial nose, it was very interesting. It almost had like a pine resin acetone,
Okay.
not like overwhelming, but like just a hint of that quality to it,
So there's
which
a
was
hint
not what I
there.
was expecting.
Mhm.
So Bobby J's in aisle 35. We were both wrong.
Okay.
But there's a hint there from Tom that says natural color and non-chill filtered. It says question mark. So is that your
It's-
question, Tom? Or I thought
He
you were,
doesn't know.
It's
okay.
a really light nose. It's got like some old tobacco and some books in it. So I'm thinking it might have a little bit of a sherry thing going on, but the nose is very light, and that acetone pine pitch thing was kind of threw me off just a little bit. Again, I didn't get it on the second nosing quite as it was like hit me right up front, and then it kind of wafted off. So
I definitely get some of that pine needle you're talking to. It is light, almost a little bit oily. This isn't fair just by looking at it. My initial reaction is like there's coloring in this. I'm hoping I'm wrong. But
it's the Klein Leach talking.
Yeah.
It could be. It is not clear whether there is or not on the bottling. So it could be.
So if I just let the rest for a hot second, the second nose was a little bit more strong. I got a little bit more out of it. I want this thing to air out. How long has this been poured?
Like half an hour.
Okay,
maybe. And so this, if I was to nose this up front, I would not think this is a single malt. It smells a little grainy to me.
It's very light.
It is.
On the nose, it's very light.
Lighter than you would expect from the color. That's for sure.
Yeah, I was really expecting a much deeper, richer nose than I got.
Yep.
And now again, it's even lighter than it was before.
Really?
Yeah.
It's a salt whiskey.
Talk to me, Goose.
Yeah, hit that flavor.
It's surprisingly interesting.
So
its palate's better than the noses.
It's got like some really good Christmas spice and some chocolate covered cherries. It's got a really nice cherry flavor.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm getting burnt leaves like in the fall.
Okay.
On the nose. Let me see what this thing tastes like.
And it's got like a pickled ginger thing going on the finish. Makes your tongue tingly. Very nice. I like it.
Oh, I get a really strong chocolate note on the side of my tongue. God, the ABV seems low.
Yeah, I thought that too.
I mean, there's
43.
no ABV. Really?
It's
43? God, I wouldn't have even guessed that.
Okay.
I would have said 40 because there's no bite at
Not
all.
at all.
So on the finish of that, I just got it. This is a wine cask finish. So go through it and
Is
and
this Sauternes?
It is
No,
not.
Thank
Sauternes.
God.
No.
Just
So,
as a joke.
So with that additional information,
That explains the cherry.
Exactly, 43% wine finished, wine cask finished.
Hey, look at Mash and Drum showing up. Well,
were just talking
I'm
about
glad
you.
you're here. We're going to talk about a bottle that you had a little influence on.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, we're trying to guess this bottle, the surprise mystery dram that Andrew.
One more time around. We'll
Okay.
go through this and see what
Do we need to put water on it? See if it changes anything?
you could. You got fresh
I
water
don't-
here.
I'm not sure that's a good idea.
Oh, really? Too soft, too light.
Yeah. It's super interesting because it's almost got a layered effect.
Mhm.
It's got like a spicy underlayer that kind of just hangs with you the
Yeah.
whole time. And so I'm guessing maybe French oak casks. That would be my guess based on the spiciness of it.
You hit that right on.
But then it's got like this really soft, velvety, like sweet, fruity top part.
Yep.
But they don't mingle.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
I'd agree.
It's a very interesting dram.
It is interesting. And it is French oak, finished in wine cask.
Can't disagree with any of your notes, that's for sure. And it's a good pull on the French oak because there's a little bit of European oak and that's some spice from that. And that's,
Yeah.
you assume that's where it comes
That
from.
spices, that's
But-
what I'm pulling through.
It's light on the nose and it's pretty light on the palate as far as ABV. Lighter than
Like you
43.
just suck that down. I mean, it's good.
I mean, I agree with you. Water is probably going to beat it down.
I mean,
but
you can put a little on
put
there.
a
drop
Just
a
see.
little on
in there
there.
and just see what happens. Maybe
So-
it'll open the nose up a little bit more.
So the wine that it's finished in is Chateau Neuf de Pape Blanc.
Really?
Wow, the what?
It's a champagne producer, but it's their white wine. It's not the champagne. So it's a white
So
wine.
is this
finish.
like one of those glasses that we'll drink before it's time type of thing? Or
I mean, it's just that would influence that's influencing. So you're getting a white wine kind of like champagne kind of wine flavor laying on top of that French oak gives it an interesting kind of balance. I'm not sure it's really well balanced.
No,
But
it feels like it needs to sit and marry
It does.
a little longer.
so it's not Martini and Rossi Asti Spumante barrels?
No. So I will tell you this is Guyon, and I can't pronounce the detail. It's Guyon Distillery. It's a French single malt. So Katie picked that up in Paris.
Huh.
It is, yeah. So it's actually a French single malt finished in white wine casks.
I think
Interesting.
the water didn't hurt it. It didn't help it at all. It didn't do anything to it. I still get a really prevalent rich dark chocolate note right down the middle of the palate.
So this is l'Esprit du Malt de la Montagne de Rem, France. That's the bottle they've got here. 43% ABV.
It's a kick-ass bottle.
I was
It's
going
a
to say,
bottle.
it's ostentatious. You can have one of these on your bar or 2 regular bottles.
If this were on my bar, my son would come downstairs and think it was cologne and just start drowning himself in it. It's
It
all
does
about
look a
the
bit like
smell
a
right
cologne
now.
bottle. So I got Katie. It's an interesting story. So Katie was at the Louvre, and my wife was with students this last couple weeks in France, and so she looked up a liquor store in Paris and went in and talked to the manager of the store. I told her I wanted a French single malt. If you get me a French single malt, so she went in there. She talked through this. This distillery opened in 1997. Actually, we've got a link which I'm going to try and. Well, it doesn't matter. Yeah, let me not spend.
Damn it! It's all in French. I can't read the.
All right, guys, don't look at the screen. Don't look at the screen real quick. I'm going to try and pull this up without showing everything else I've got here. So this is the thing, and let me share this. Let's go back to StreamYards and share this slide.
Okay, so that's.
Sure,
Why would they do that?
All right. So for those that are looking for it, this is what we actually have here. Guyon Distillery. This distillery opened in 1997, from what I understand. 43% ABV, 7 centiliter cask. The whiskey on Whiskey Base again got an 86 rating. So 2 votes on it. I don't know.
French oak.
It's interesting.
It is an interesting bottle.
I really, honestly, if they would have let it sit and marry a little bit longer, I think it would be much more interesting than it is.
I think I would agree. It's got potential.
Does it have an age?
No.
It does not.
No.
So it'd be interesting to know about that.
Yeah, I'd love to know the more details on it. And I'm going to guess it had to be chill filtered at 43.
It does probably in color, probably colored, be my guess as well, but you never know. So
it's very approachable and it's enjoyable.
Yeah.
I give hats off to that. It's decent. It's it's definitely something you can drink. You're not going to just pour it right here and never touch that bottle. That bottle will get killed.
absolutely.
I'm glad that you got it.
That white wine
It
finish
was
is really
very
interesting.
interesting. It makes for a very interesting dram. I will say they could have bottled a little higher ABV. They could have given us a little more punch.
They could have. I would agree with you on that.
That French market, they like their soft blended single.
Correct.
It's softer than 43 for Christ. I mean, I want this at 50.
It's super, yeah.
Yeah,
Super
it's a
easy
light.
drinker.
It's a light. That's probably a good summer dram.
Yeah,
Real light.
for sure.
It's not heavy. It's not peated. It's none of that. It's really light
Honestly,
whiskey.
it would be an interesting one to pour for somebody who was trying to convert to single malts or had never tried one.
This would actually be
because
great if we did a single malt, like a non-Scotch single malt.
Right.
A bridge between,
And we've been talking about, maybe breaking into some American single malts. This would be fun to mix into a flight of American single malts to see where it stood. You don't know what's in there, and you're going through this flight, and it'd be interesting to see what we would.
Should have guessed it was French. I can't believe we didn't think.
We know. His wife's been in France for the past week and a half, and neither one of us thought.
I thought, oh shit! I just told him it's French oak. I'm like, oh, that's gonna give it away.
Yeah,
but that's all right.
but those cats in Scotland, they'll put whiskey in anything.
Well, and Andrew did bring back a bottle from Asia one time that was probably one of the worst whiskeys, not Scotch.
It didn't taste bad. It just didn't taste.
No, it was a Scotch.
It was technically.
It was a Scotch for the Japanese market.
Scotch blue. That's right.
Scotch blue.
It made me blue.
All right. It is time to move on to the next whiskey of the day.
We better bring in a special guest for that.
Yeah.
And
so
before we introduce this, I think we need to bring in a guest who is the reason we have this bottle. The reason this bottle exists.
The bottle and tell at least what do we got here?
All right. So tonight we have. Well,
All right,
It's
it's his
let the guests
bottle.
talk
Yeah,
about
let's
it.
do
It's
that.
fine.
All right.
There we go.
So introducing Michael Porter.
You're muted.
Yep, there we go. You think after 2020 and remote work, you're on mute would be over, but it still happens constantly.
Every day it does. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Cheers, everybody.
So pretty excited about this. Let's back all the way. First, introduce the bottle, and then we'll get into the story because I want the full story from where things started because there's kind of a fun story that goes along with it. So what do we got here?
What we have here is it's from Starlight Distillery in Borden, Indiana. So right here in our home state, guys. This is a bourbon whiskey that they've taken, and then they put it into a Highland Scotch cask and let that sit for, I'm not sure the exact number of months, but at least 6.
Yeah, I think it's roughly that.
There you go. Indiana, Scotland. So it's a really interesting profile. To me, it really kind of perfectly captures Scotch and bourbon into one glass. I mean, it's a bourbon through and through, but the malt influence is not subtle. It's a really, really cool profile. That day at the distillery, we tried lots of things. We were there with the Mash and Journey crew, Jason, the Mash and Drum, and Scott, my Bourbon Journey. They also picked 2 barrels for their group, and we kind of helped with that. But our team was we were really interested in these 2 barrels they had that were finished in a Highland Scotch cask. Yeah. And it was really weird in the rick house that day. Well, it was freezing. It was March. I think. And Andrew, remember the temperature was dropping that day. So we got to the rick house, and I think it was in the 50s. But by the time we actually left, by the time we left, it was snowing heavily. It was freezing. But we had an interesting experience where the one we thought we preferred in the rick house, by the time we got up to the conference room to do a blind between those 2 barrels at room temperature, our perspectives had totally flipped.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So there were two barrels. We tasted one. I thought that's okay, and the other one's like, no, it doesn't have anything in it. It just wasn't there as compared to the other one. Or I think the lower flavor was one we tasted first. And then the second one was like, oh, this is much more potency. It's got a better balance. So we took them both to the tasting room, let them warm up. Then we did a blind with 4 or 5 people. It was our core pick team, which was myself, Andrew, my wife Brienne, and my cousin Devin. And then we also had the Mash and Drum, Jason, and Darrell, who goes by the Whiskey Saint on Instagram. My cousin Devin is at iSpirited on Instagram. But that was our core team who did the blind and then voted. But we had a clear winner. Like it was. It was hands down. I know Jason like tasted both. It was like he didn't need to taste it again. Just a single sip of each. He's like, yeah, this is easy.
Let's go through the details real quick, Mike. Why don't you tell us, proof? All the good stuff.
Do you guys know which distillery the Highland cask was from?
It's a Highland Scotch cask. Is all we're like. Allowed to say.
But no. Yes, but no, we're not allowed to.
We'll see you on Patreon.
Yes.
I will say it's a distillery that folks are very familiar with, that know and love. They're an iconic distillery. The ABV on this is 52.9, 105.8 proof. That's a little over 4 years. So it is, it's a young bourbon, but Starlight excels at young bourbons. A lot of their stuff is 4 or 5 years old, and it tastes a lot older. This one for me, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mark.
Is this cask strength then?
This is cask strength. Yeah. Okay. So this is straight from the barrel, non-shell filtered. It's not monkeyed with it at all. It's exactly as we tasted it that day, straight out of the barrel. Only it sat for 4 more months.
Number of bottles.
So not for nothing, but I thought I was about to have a sip of that French whiskey again. I didn't realize that Andrew had swapped out the glass. It is not French whiskey.
No. It's it is a really unique profile. I think my official notes that I put on the website were chocolate, honey, vanilla, malt, raisins, dried fruit. But as I've been working through my bottle, I'm getting a lot more like pear and apricot. Now, I mean, if you're not used to drinking bourbon, you're going to pick up the corn and the grain and that sweetness. It is a bourbon through and through for sure.
I have to say that I was surprised. Again, I didn't realize what I was drinking. And then I was like, which is actually awesome because when I took a sip, I was like, oh, that's malty. Like it's surprisingly malty in with the bourbon. It's very unique. I like it.
Yeah. The thing I like about it is you up front, it hits you with bourbon. But then that about mid palate, it really changed into kind of a malty, scotchy kind of pear profile. It's interesting. So I see Michael put in the link to the shared pour. It's actually, I went to the shared pour website today, and it's actually highlighted in their barrel picks. Mm-hmm. It's for $59.99. It's roughly the cost of the barrel, and it's actually like the shipping is like $16 flat, no matter how many bottles you buy.
Yeah.
Yep.
How many bottles?
Excellent.
Were bottled? How did you say? How many?
I believe so the way Starlight works is you actually select a half barrel. So I think my yield was 118. So another group called the Angel Share, they have the other half of this barrel. They're a charity organization and a private whiskey club. So I picked the half barrel, 118 total for me. And I think last I looked, there are 17 left. So it's definitely running low.
Gotta go. And it's only been out like a week.
So let's talk to this. We've never had this.
The pear is great.
Like, the pear is there.
I'm picking up the pear. I do get like some apricot citrusy notes. It's got a really nice malt character that shines through.
I can't believe you're getting a malt character on a
it's
4-year-old
like
the
best of both, because you do get that sweet bourbon up front, and it's really
on
nice.
top of that malt base though, which is really cool.
And then it kind of fades into the like a little bit more of the malt. The sweetness fades out, but on the finish, I get a lot of that pear, and it's got like a nice fruity, spicy, like a poached pear thing.
Yeah, it's spicy.
It's really
I don't
nice.
get the malt on the nose as much. I get the bourbon forward on the nose, and then I took a taste, and it was like, hello, where were you? And it's really cool.
So what was the other barrel like?
I mean,
it's a clear winner.
It's hard to remember that far back. It was, I mean, they were in the same wheelhouse, but I think it wasn't quite as vibrant as this one.
Correct. That's exactly. I don't think it had as much Scotch barrel influence.
I think you're right.
Bourbon. Yeah, it didn't pop on the finish like this one did.
This one's nice.
So it was fun. So part of the experience, of course, of picking a barrel is going through the distillery. And this distillery in the middle of nowhere. I mean, you have to drive like an hour from an interstate.
And you go
distance.
That's it's not far from 65, but it does feel like you're in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, you go way up this hill
and so it's actually one of the highest places in Indiana. So it's got a unique environment with respect to heat and wind and all those kind of things that makes its whiskey age a little more aggressively than maybe some other like Indiana whiskeys. And the cool thing was, so they have some barrels that are aging in the still room. So those ones are like, it's hot in there.
Right.
And they're double oaks and are in there.
Yeah, they're double oaks are in there. Yeah. So they put them in oak for a second barrel. And they said that in that room, they have their mashing tank and their still are both in the room. And you cannot do both at the same time because it gets way too hot.
No kidding.
So you either have to mash in your grains or you have to be distilling. You can't do both at the same time.
Or you roast.
You roast. And you got to cook those barrels that are
right.
Well, and we were led through by Ted Huber. The Huber family is who runs the whole operation there. I think they're 7th generation. You know, farmers, and they make brandy. And they've gotten back into the whiskey game lately. And Ted Huber walked us through. He was, pouring us samples, telling us about the entire process. His sons, Christian and Blake, are the latest generation, and they are also master distillers there. And those guys are,
oh my gosh,
brilliant. They're, great education. They're coming at it from total scientific perspective and, the craft and the art.
Right.
But it's the three of them, and they don't have one set mash bill. They will, sometimes it's a 3 grain or a 4 grain, and they work with different cooperages, so different cask sources. Clearly, this one was from Scotland, but even their bourbons and ryes they get from Kelvin, from Canton, from these different cooperages. So the stuff they're putting out is all over the map. Their profiles are, can range from, totally different things, but very consistent quality. And they're just it's really cool what they're doing down there.
Yeah. Which was the brother that was, did most of their barrel picking? Because he was telling stories about him picking barrels that I think
that was Christian.
Christian trying to
he selects the casks. He manages that part of acquiring the casks that they finish in.
Yeah, Dad, trust me, it's worth $1,500 for the single cask. Because it's just unique, and his process of going through cask.
And his
really,
dad's like, nope.
Yeah, it's really
Oh
interesting
no,
to see.
Christian. Yeah, I think he has
What
free
about
will
this
to
guy's
source what's
whiskey,
good.
though?
He knows what he's doing with these.
Well, I
guys.
say, these guys, these are adult. I say, yeah, they're the sons, but yeah, these are
They're adults.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Very interesting.
out of curiosity, we've been through distilleries before. This one sounds a wee bit different. Do you know what their output is there? Do you know, how long have they been distilling and how big are they on the map? Do they get any of their stuff from, the big MG or
don't
do they
think they
start
do.
from scratch? Do they use
Nope,
their own?
nope. It's all their own whiskey. It's all their own whiskey. Christian tells a story. I've done several barrel picks now. Actually, behind me, the back row is all the barrels I've helped pick with different teams. And Christian has told a story a couple times that they thought about that at one point, about sourcing from MGP. A lot of distilleries, when they're getting going, they'll source just to get some stuff on the market, and that's fine. There's a lot of great MGP out there. But actually, Dave Pickerel, who's a huge name in American distilling, and he passed away a couple of years ago.
Right.
He actually advised the Hubers to not. He basically said, "Hey, listen, do your own thing." And some of their stuff, when it was just a couple years old, wasn't stellar. Some of the stuff at a couple years old was fantastic, but they've kind of stayed the course, and I'm glad they did, because now everything they're putting out is 100% their stuff.
Yeah, that's something to be proud of.
They do buy grain though. They don't farm all their grains there, do they?
They don't farm. They farm a lot of it, but no, they do import a lot of stuff. Yeah.
And I think it was 1,000 barrels a year. Was that what it was?
I don't know the numbers. Someone in the comments, once this is not live anymore, may someone from the distillery may have some info, but
I feel
they're
like
growing. They just built a new rick house.
Work through the process from start to finish are going to end up being better at the process from start to finish.
Yes, they've worked it. They've built their stills. They've increased their capacity. They put in good filtration systems to filter their good whiskeys, or not. That's typically used more for their brandies and stuff. Some of they make a lot of. They distill.
Yeah, they do a lot of
gin
different
and things like that. So.
See, I'm getting a lot of the oak vanillas coming through now.
Coming in, yeah.
That's a really fun bottle, Mike.
So,
really fun bottle.
do you remember was this aged for the entire 4 years in that cask, or was it finished? No, it was finished.
It was finished. So the way they do their single barrels is they will actually craft blends. So they'll identify a certain finishing cask like Scotch or different wine finishes, and they'll make a small batch blend. Now, I don't know how big this one was. It may have just been enough to fill those 2 Scotch casks, but they'll make a small batch blend, and then that comes from a few barrels of straight bourbon, and then they'll put that into the finishing cask.
Right. But you say blends, but it's still all the same distillery, right? So,
Yes.
And I don't know if the rules are quite the same in the US in the bourbon distilleries with, naming things like they are in Scotch, and right. Because a lot of people had that misnomer in Scotch. Well, it was a single malt, and you're like, well, yeah, but it's from 5 different barrels in that distillery, so they blend it all together first, right?
Similar concept. Yeah. Yep.
Really, really fun. Now, you talked a little bit about all those bottles behind you. So obviously, this isn't your first rodeo. This is more, you've had a lot of time on the bull. You got another one, lined up. What's your future here? Is this your retirement plan, Mike?
No, I wish. No, nothing lined up just yet. Of course, I will probably be at the distillery before long. And because they're just they're not far from us, just a couple and a half hours drive. Right here. But no, there's a few of these left, hoping those sell out soon. Grab one while you can, because like we say, it's a single barrel, and when it's gone, it's gone.
That's it.
Right.
Hey, how'd you get the cool label?
Let's talk about the back label.
Yes.
We didn't even get into
this beautiful thing right here.
Yeah.
There's a guy who goes by the name of Jason C. You may know him as the Mash and Drum.
Who? What?
He actually designed this for me. I was there the day that he picked their other barrels, which are right here and right here. And of course, Andrew was there too. Mm-hmm. They picked a double oak and a sherry. See Jason's lovely artwork there. But he was, he was working on his stickers, and we were all kind of partnering with the same vendor. And so he said, "Yeah, I'll help you take care of that sticker." And he produced a great design, and I'm forever grateful to you, Jason. Thanks, buddy.
It looks cool, and it's fitting that it's on a good bottle. I'm 99.9% sure that I have a bottle of this. Drew said he ordered two, one for me and one for him. I don't have it in my possession yet, so I'm going to leave that 0.1% out there. But I'm really impressed, Mike. I think you guys really picked a winner, and I absolutely love the fact that malt is there. It's a really good stepping bottle for someone who is either in Scotch that wants to try to break into bourbon, or is in bourbon and wants to break into Scotch. It really is the best of both worlds. It's not overly corn and overly sweet. It's very approachable. It's fun.
The malt aspect of it comes through really nice.
It does.
I mean,
I'm very impressed.
That cask influence it's not subtle. Yeah.
No.
But all credit to Starlight. We were given a lot of cool things to try that day, and I think we picked a really nice one. But all credit to the Hubers. They put out a great product.
They do.
And I don't. Full disclosure, I don't work for Starlight. I'm just a very enthusiastic fan. So. Sorry, Sean.
You're a lucky one.
How many did you try in the process, Michael?
Oh boy.
And did you go in with a preconceived notion of like kind of what you wanted out of it, or did you just go in and start sampling?
Well, to your second question, I wanted something unique and really tasty, and I think we ended up getting that. When they said, "Hey, we have some Scotch casks," of course that piqued my interest. Being a Scotch guy, but we probably tried a couple dozen. And of course you're spitting. You're not just drinking all that barrel proof whiskey, or you'll end up on the floor. But Starlight lets you try a lot of things to kind of hone in on what you
literally wandered through their rick house, and they had the big whatever you call it,
the thief.
Thief, and he was pulling. Yep. You guys.
And speaking of that, a shout out to my buddy Andrew Jordanic, who guided us through that. He's their single. Actually, he has a new title. I know he's given a promotion. He was their single barrel coordinator, and I'm forgetting his new title. But he walked us through that day and helped us try so many amazing things. Yeah, he's a great guy.
Well done. I'm jealous, man.
Yep.
And I'm thankful that I got a bottle. I'm gonna enjoy it. I'm gonna share it with some folks that come over, because I think it's interesting and is in the middle of the road for me. It's the best of both worlds. Hey, I even wore a bourbon shirt tonight just for this. That's a huge step for me.
That's big.
So, Mike, while you're here, I think this may be a good time to do the last whiskey.
Bring it on.
So,
yeah, I was able to coordinate with Andrew too. I have a sample.
Look at that.
This was going to be a surprise.
You have a sample of this, Mike?
I do have a sample.
In fact, he just showed you the bottle.
Is it sweet tea?
This is Mash and Journey's bottle that they picked at the same time.
It looks delicious. I love the look of it.
She's my sherry pot.
Show me that sticker again, because I caught it for just a hot second. I love it.
You got to this. So this is the bottle. So
that's
crazy. We're walking through the distillery.
Yeah, look at the color difference.
Yeah. We're walking through the rick house, and I don't remember who walked out with this bottle. This is the bottle that they walked out with.
There's nothing else.
There's
no
nothing
label,
on
nothing. Just a bottle of whiskey.
And they said, "You guys got to try this." So they pour a glass for all of us. Immediately, Jason says, "That's ours." He didn't even think. He just like, "That's ours." So I don't know the story. I can pull up the link that he sent. So this is guys, you got to drink this. You got to get into that. Pour extra if you want. It's totally worth it, because it's
wow.
This is like chocolate covered raisins. And,
well, what's the maturation finish on this?
So it's a sherry finish. I think Oloroso. 4.5 years.
Go ahead.
104.8 proof. Okay, so 52.4 ABV. What was the age? 4.5?
4.5. And I'll tell you what, this one is fantastic. I've had several sherry finished stuff from Starlight, and this one is very nice.
But Oloroso sherry finished blend of 4, 5, and 6-year-old, mostly 3-grain bourbon. So this does not drink like a bourbon. It drinks like a heavily sherried.
So
whiskey.
Whose notes am I reading?
This is what Jason put on the Mash and Journey website. So the only way you could get this bottle, and I don't know if there are any left, is to be. Oh, does it sold out? Okay,
this one's sold out.
a patron of either Mash and Drum or
So
My Bourbon Journey.
nose is spot on. That's why I want to know
Tobacco,
who's
raisins,
I
Palate
mean,
is spot on.
I haven't tasted yet, but if you don't get
Nuttiness, red fruits, toasted almonds, chocolate covered
Good nose.
raisins, sweet tobacco. Yeah, it's got all of
It's
that.
got all this stuff. So I wanted to bring this in because I wanted to surprise it. But since you're here and you've got a bottle of it already, I think this is a great time. But it's cool that this is the actual glass that they brought out for us to try from. And as we were doing our tasting, Jason said, "Here, take this and surprise the guys with it." So I'm like,
It's even got like a sweet, it's got like a tiramisu. It's like a sweet coffee note, like an espresso.
so it
Yeah,
just
that's
like
really nice.
pulls at your
Man,
core.
so why it really grabs me, I've been, a sherry bomb nut for the past, I've been stuck in that swim lane for 2.5, 3 years. You wouldn't believe how many sherry matured scotches I have at home. And man, this is hitting every note of it. Right. And I don't get smothered with this big corn bourbon punch up my nose.
It is sweet. It is good.
Sure.
Bourbon
Oh, yes.
sweetness.
But it's not over the top.
No.
Crazy.
Oh, wow.
I think it's because it's so young that like there's definitely some sherried scotches that
There he
are
is.
over sherried.
Absolutely. You're right. You're
There's a
right.
guy.
It's like just too much, right? And this is like it's young enough that it doesn't have that overdone sherriness to it, but it's got all it punches all the buttons when you're thinking.
And it's finished in sherry, right? So it's not fully matured. So
Yes.
it's been a lot of time in fresh charred new oak, just like any bourbon would.
Man, it looks like it's been in an oak or a
Yeah,
sherry cask for like
I'm not
20
sure.
years.
It
It's still
does,
hurt.
doesn't it?
I'm not sure they drain the sherry out before they put the bourbon in there, but it really.
Yeah, man, now you're starting to split hairs.
But keep in mind, you put this into a hot rick house, and it's
Right.
going to pull that sherry out of that cask like that.
That's true.
Oh yeah.
And this had been put in, I think, the summer before, wasn't it?
So
It hadn't
I,
just been in there
Sure.
winter.
Can't recall.
I introduced a friend of mine to Scotch this week, and big bourbon fan, and said, "Well, all right, tell me a Scotch." And so I kind of queried him on his palate and everything. Big sherry type guy, you know it. So I just threw him a Glendronach 12. He went out and bought it. He got back to me, says, "Man, I really liked it. That was a great suggestion." He's like, "Am I weird by saying I just couldn't stop sniffing it?" And I wish I could put this in front of him right now because this could last 2 hours, not because I don't want to take a sip, just because I'm gonna have my nose in it the whole time.
Mm-hmm. It's one you could just sit and smell for an hour.
It is.
Put that in a candle.
So yeah, definitely. If you want access to these kind of whiskeys, hit Mash and Drum on their Patreon, and it's not expensive, a few bucks a month, and you get access to these kind of whiskeys that are only available through his. So
Well done,
nice.
Jason.
Very nice.
And I will say, definitely well done, Jason and Scott and that whole crew. But since this one's sold out, sherry finished is one of the more prominent common finishes that Starlight does. So you may poke around at your local Total Wine, or if you're in a state that Starlight distributes to, or online. I know that they do a lot of business with Sealbox and different online retailers. You might be able to get your hands on not this barrel, but a similar Starlight sherry finish. So yeah, look around.
Yeah,
I mean, it's exciting that this is a local Indiana
It is.
distillery, right?
It is.
And I love the fact that,
well, it is 102. Yeah. So
that they're not just getting all their stuff from MGP. They're making it. It's really enjoyable. Not to say that
Well,
every
that's what we do
bottle they
before.
put out is going to be
Nice.
this. Some might have that similar bourbon, middle of the road bourbon profile. But man, these two bottles that we've had tonight are fabulous.
You should put some water.
Needs to put some water on that.
We got to get you boys. I know Andrew's visited, but I got to get the rest of you dummies down there to Starlight. You'd love it.
It's a cool place. It's a bit of a draw, but it's a cool place to be.
Yeah, and it's not even just a distillery. It's a full working farm. So you could take the kids down there. They do U-picks, berries, apples, pumpkins. There's a
Yep.
farmer's market. They have a full winery. They have a cafe. There's
They got room
a
for a
ice
tent?
cream and
They got
cheese
a pond
shop.
or anything like that?
What's that?
It's a big
They got
place.
room for a tent and a pond to fish in. We'll make it a guy's weekend.
You totally could. Yeah.
It's
That's
incredible. And they're maybe a 30-minute drive from Louisville. So it's not too far from civilization and hotels and all that stuff. But
Is that all? I thought it was farther from Louisville than that.
from Louisville, no, it's about 30 minutes.
It's two
Like
bottles
we were
of-
saying earlier, it feels like it's when you're there and you're up on that hill, you feel like you're kind of just out there in the middle of nowhere.
Good
This
times.
is
Well,
both of these were very good.
for as cold as it was when we were there in March, I think these were both great picks. I think these were arguably the two best picks I thought we had.
I was
So-
disappointed. I was in Hawaii I had a good time, but I really was
Oh, that's
wanted
so
to go
good.
to this.
Get all the fruits on.
I'm up for a visit when next time you're going. You know,
Let's do
I
it.
would love to.
Let's do it.
I would love to visit, but these are really good. And just
Chocolate
a
covered
reminder,
cherries.
everybody, that link that Mike put up earlier, if there's 17 bottles left, it's going to disappear. It's going to be gone soon. So if you're interested in Mike's pick, you better go out there and
They may be gone already.
yeah, you made it.
You know how this crowd works,
Yeah.
right?
Dibs on it.
Yeah, it looks like several already had them. Like Justin has one,
Yeah.
and Bobby J might already have one. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
nice.
They were both very good. Excellent work, Starlight.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
I've had several of their, like, because they bring them around the restaurant, so I get to try a lot of stuff. And Starlight is one of the Indiana distilleries that seems consistently like they just do a nice job. Like everything I've had from them, nothing has been like, I've had some that I'm from other distilleries that I'm like, you can just put that back in the bag. I don't.
That was a
need to
miss.
try any more of that.
Yeah.
That's awful. Don't ever bring that back here.
Right. You take a drink, you're like just a bit outside.
Yeah. Well, all of the liquor, like the managers of the liquor salespeople, all know not to send me the new person. Like that's just not.
They'll destroy you.
That's not a good idea.
Yeah.
In general, it's not a good idea to send me like pretty much anybody. Like you just, I'll tell you what I want.
Right.
You're like Ron Swanson. I know more than you do. Kind of.
I've had people from distilleries come in to give me the sales pitch, and I explained their distillery to them. That's always a fun conversation.
So
That's always great.
I'm reading the comments. It sounds to me like maybe we need to put a Scotch for Dummies bus tour down to Starlight, and because there seems like there's a lot of viewers, subs, patrons that want to go down. I mean, go down, spend a day down there, get lunch and dinner or something, and
do a tour. Yeah.
Yeah, do a tour. I mean,
the hospitality there is amazing.
It is.
I happened to stumble in there on a slow weekday, and ran into the guy I mentioned earlier, Andrew Jadonic, who was then their single barrel coordinator. He's been promoted since. He took me on a tour. I mean, it was just totally dead. He was like, "Yeah, let's do a tour," and we toured the facility. He took me out to the Rick House, and we tried a few things. And you can book these kind of tours too. But yeah, if we wanted to put something together, we could arrange and book a group tour and
we can throw it out there on the patron Discord and get a feel for how many are interested and reach out to them and maybe block a dozen spots or something. I
feel like it's kind of the crowd that like you just roll a barrel in, right? Like we're just going to take this with us, right?
Well,
like
the people that would come down with us are all going to be serious whiskey drinkers and enthusiastic about being there. They're not going to be there, with fog over their eyes saying this is their first time.
Yeah, that was a fun part of that whiskey tasting. It's that everybody part of the team, they knew their whiskey. They explored it. We discussed it. We and we pushed each other. What do you taste here? Why do you like this? Why that was that's the best part of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Is sharing whiskey and talking about it. Why do you like this? Why did
better?
Michael and I had a pretty serious discussion over these whiskeys when we were first tasting them in the Rick House because I'm like, I don't know, it just doesn't stand out. You think you need to have something that you're really proud of and things like this. But once it warmed up,
mm-hmm. I remember that. Yep. No, that was good. That was valuable. I was like, well, okay, which one do I like? And
exactly. It pushes you.
Yeah.
That's.
Well, you have to explain why you like it.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's sometimes it's difficult.
It is.
Right. Like it's just a feeling you get that you like this one better than that one.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't necessarily explain it.
And interestingly enough, if you think about it, you guys showed up, and it's not that you didn't know each other, so there is a little bit of a chemistry. But doing something like this, when you're tasting something, it's better. It works easier if you know that person, you trust them. I can be honest. I can be honest with my flavoring, and you can disagree with me and say, "Hey, man, that's not what I'm getting," without offending me or making me upset. You got to be able to be honest with each other and really throw it all on the table. So the fact that you guys were able to do that, I think you guys nailed it.
And I think that if you're picking a barrel and you're taking people that they get whiskey, right? They take it seriously and they want to pick a good barrel for you, and you may like something and they're not getting it. Like that to me is a red flag. Like, okay, well, even though I kind of like this one, like if not everybody's going to like it, or if there's something
Right.
off about this barrel that I'm not picking up on my palate,
Right.
like let's move on and find a barrel that everybody agrees with.
Yep.
And I think that's a good way to do it.
Hey,
Absolutely.
out of curiosity, how big was their rick houses down there? Do you know how many casks they have on hand? Or
I don't know the number, but they have they just built Rickhouse 4. And I mean each one holds hundreds and hundreds of casks. And I know they have plans for at least a couple more. And some of them even they were talking about possibly even digging down a little to get some kind of dunnage style. And they've expanded their production capacity at their stills. So they're growing rapidly.
Yeah, they're on the move. Yeah,
They're kind of like, you know, young rock stars in the American bourbon scene. Their one finish that is just blowing up like crazy is this Amburana. They call it their cigar batch. It's finished in Brazilian Amburana wood.
what?
Oh, that's right. I remember
These are going for a crazy amount on secondary right now. It is legit really great stuff. At your guys' 6-year celebration, we blinded some of the Ardbeg folks on that. Ardbeg Cam, and a few different folks.
Yeah.
Yes. And they were blown away. What was her name? Carrie, also from that group. I think she said that she was obsessed with that. You know, like, so a lot of those Ardbeg Scotch people tried this Starlight cigar batch and were just blown away by how unique that one was.
Yeah, and we asked them about that. They don't get many of those barrels, so it's pretty exclusive to get a bottle of that.
I'd have to educate.
And this one that I just showed you is from Indiana Bourbon on Instagram.
Okay.
All right.
Well, that was some really good stuff, man. Kudos. Congrats. I'm glad I've got a bottle. I'm super stoked that we were able to get a sample on the other bottle, the second bottle tonight. That's good stuff.
Yeah,
man.
that's crazy.
Thanks for the eye-opening.
You need to drive across town and try this French single malt.
Oh, yeah.
And I did put Scotch in the Bayou's comment up there. She's going to be up in Louisville on September 14th, so maybe that's when we try to do this whole little tour with everybody.
That sounds great.
That sounds like a pin in the board.
Let's
in the fall to be or close to fall.
It's
nice time of year to go.
I know because it's my daughter's birthday.
Oh, well.
So
all right, Leanne, take a couple days off. Come up on the 12th or something. We have something to work from. We'll
work something out.
So Tom's pinging me. Scotch in the news. Go, go, go. We do have a couple of things to talk about from Scotch in the news. So, Mike, kudos to you. I really love it, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
I'm
guys.
sure we'll be talking, brother.
Absolutely. Cheers, everybody.
yeah.
We are going to finish up the show tonight with a couple of topics, Scotch in the News topics. We haven't had a chance to talk about Scotch in the News in the last couple of weeks because King of the Hill's been really just killing it, which, by the way,
have links?
just so you, they're in the inbox. Yeah, it's the second one down. There's 4 of them. Just go ahead and open all 4 of them up and we'll get to them. King of the Hill will resume next week. We do have several contenders in all of the categories. So it'll be interesting.
Doesn't matter. We're gonna do it anyway.
No, Drew is not back next week because he's on vacation, I believe. But we do need to keep the King of the Hill rolling because the goal is to wrap it up end of September-ish so that we can put all the kings against each other and find the one to rule them all.
We'll see. We'll see.
There can be only one.
The Highlander series.
So I found 4 different things to talk about as far as Scotch. I actually want to talk about the SWA one. Yeah, that one right there. So bring this up. I found this really interesting. So just recently, the SWA was able to get the term Scotch whiskey copyrighted in the United States.
To trademark against, take action against counterfeiters.
Right. So you read the article and they go on to say that, according to the article, that the United States had already, given the SWA their word that they would protect Scotch whiskey. But nevertheless, the SWA decided to go ahead and copyright it. And it was the most difficult country to get copyright protection, but nevertheless, they have it. And they've done it because of some of the numbers that you read in the article. The United States sales for Scotch was over $1 billion last year. And total global sales were 5.5. So a fifth of
huge
global
market.
sales, right. I can't blame the SWA for wanting to protect. I mean, and they work so hard to protect it in Scotland and around the world, right? So this made me feel good. I was kind of excited to see that they actually did this. I hope nobody in the U.S. was offended by it, but
Yeah, that's cool.
It is cool for us Scotch lovers, right? Let's move on to the next article. Let me see what you pull it up here so I can see what am I looking at? I'm getting confused.
We're gonna go for a Chrome tab with that.
Yeah. So let's see.
Experimentation, sustainable Scotch, rare Scotch.
So we can talk about the winner right there, the first one, the rare Scotch. This one kind of caught me. I was excited to read this. I didn't realize this just happened, but in San Francisco World Spirits Competition, the best in show, 40-year-old Ben Romick. And I was like, what? Really? This is kind of, I didn't expect that. Not to say that they're not capable. Obviously,
Ben Romick,
they are.
40-year-old single malt.
But I mean, I was like, okay, so Ben Romick had two other expressions that were double gold also in the competition. But to see them win best in show, now I have no idea.
You know what
how
always
much it cost?
It piques my interest whenever you see one of these articles, right? And they're like, oh, best in show at this whiskey competition or whatever. But they never say, like, here was all the scotches that were entered in this category. Right. So you could be like, oh, well, there was only 3.
I remember talking about one of these articles, one of these competitions one year. And we were sitting here reading the article, and I'm like, hey, Dewar's won in a category. Shit, Dewar's won in 7 categories.
That seems.
I'm like, were they the only one that submitted?
Right? Like, I've had Dewar's.
I mean, they're not bad.
I mean, I'm sure they have some really good stuff.
It doesn't mention the price of the Ben Romick 40 in the article. I'm
sure it's tasty. It's a 40-year-old
Scotch.
Well,
I'm sure it's delicious.
And best in show means it was the top whiskey of the entire show.
All categories,
ages, all levels, all everything. So that must have been pretty tasty. Because it's 40-year-old.
I mean, it's the San Francisco World Spirit Competition. I'm sure they got a bunch. It's not like the Boise whiskey thing, right? Like
Scotch for Dummies whiskey competition,
right?
Yeah. The question I have is,
although I bet we have some decent ones.
We do.
Question is it blind? Do they blind taste these? Or
I'm almost positive they do.
So 57.1% ABV, 40-year-old at 57.
That's awesome.
First fill.
That's holding on right there.
That's
brother.
like one of those old dudes that you see that's still ripped.
Right.
Well,
Exactly.
so this is okay. I think we've just uncovered the magic here. So 40 years in first fill Oloroso sherry butts. So
I find that hard to believe.
but it's still at 57.1, which means that it was in a cold, like deep cellar. So there's no way that got any temperature to it.
Don't get me wrong. This is probably like dead center bullseye of what I
Tobacco,
love right
leather,
now.
threads
I
of toffee.
mean, Oloroso,
which refused to fade. Yeah, after 40 years.
But
yeah, I bet it doesn't.
You made a comment earlier, and it's very true. It happens a lot in whiskey scotches much younger than 40 years that are over sherry. That was first fill. 40 years in first fill. There's a really good chance that could have just turned out to be like, I can't.
That could have turned terrible,
right?
I mean, to be fair, I think I may be more susceptible to this than some of you guys, but there's some sherries that I'm like, that's too much. Like, you guys overdid it.
Fair enough.
And so I don't know if it's just my palate, and I'm just like, that's a little too much sherry. So I would be interested to try that one just to see if, like, how I felt about it. 40 years in a first fill sherry butt's a long time.
Try to get our hands on
but
one.
It's still 57.1. That's amazing.
They said it was a very limited release. So
1,000 bottles. Come on, we got to find one.
Yeah, there's got to be something there.
Yeah. Let's go. There was 2 more quick articles. We got 5 minutes. We can get through them. Let's see what they were. I don't even remember.
Now I want to see if I can find one.
Go look. Sean's going to find one right now. Tell us.
All right. So we've got Scottsdale Surge or Sustainable Scotch.
You pick one. Eeny, meeny, miny, go.
We'll start with,
let me see which one. When do I see this? Get rid of that. Okay, there we go. So, hey, this one caught my attention. All right. So everybody, look, Scotch is having its moment, right? It's talking about this huge surge in Scotch sales, and Scotch whiskey's back strong like bull, right? And I'm not disagreeing. It's definitely doing very well. But when they come through, and they attribute that to all the SWA opening up the rules, and Scotch sales are on the rise because now they can mature in tequila casks. I'm like, now, come on, man. And so they're basically they're saying that Scotch whiskey sales has been on the rise, and that's a good thing. But what they're saying is that it's because they're getting to the younger audience with these new maturations that they're interested in. And part of me wants to say, all you needed to do was start marketing to the younger generation. You don't need to go and put it in.
I feel like that's what is it? Causation versus correlation.
Yeah.
I believe you need to go back and look at the numbers a little harder.
I'm not disagreeing with what they're saying as far as Scotch is on the rise and doing very strong, and Diageo is definitely doing strong, and Pernod, they're good for them. And I'm not saying that the new rules haven't had some effect on that. Let's be honest. There's some new maturations that they can do now.
You've got Pernod Ricard debuted Ballantine's Light. It's performed well enough in Spain.
So what's Ballantine's Light different? Why does the new rules have Ballantine's Light? What's that have to do with anything?
I thought I just said finished in Don Julio tequila barrels. Yuck.
Nope, hard pass.
So I honestly think that
Dewar's Elegant Smooth was the same.
And this goes into the next article we're going to close with.
Here's the thing. Like, let's take this mediocre Scotch and pour it into not great tequila barrels.
And it's going to be good.
The uniqueness of it will be amazing. Hard pass.
I think if they would have spent as much resources and time on literally just trying to, I don't want to say reinvent, rebrand, but at least take the old man stigma off of Scotch to the younger generation, to the newer alcohol drinkers, you would have had the same effect. It's just, most people who don't know much about Scotch or don't enjoy it or have had a peaty Scotch their first time and will never come back because they think it's their grandpa's whiskey. And even you talk to a lot of bourbon people and they're the same way. And they're like, oh, I had a Scotch and it was horrible. I'm like, you had a Scotch. The thing is the breadth of Scotch is this big.
You need good Scotch.
Here's the thing. I think that they don't market to a lot of younger people because when you first turn 21 or whenever you start drinking, a lot of times people are like more about the effect than the flavor.
Sure.
Right?
Shots.
It's a house party. We're all doing shots. Everybody's cool. And then you get to a certain age where you're like, I don't really need that headache anymore. And then you spend a little bit more on that upgraded bottle the first time. You're like, hey, I don't have a headache. This is great.
And that really tastes
do this
pretty
more
good.
often, right? I only needed 3 or 4 of those. That's great. And so I think that's like, it's just a maturity level thing, right? And don't get me wrong, like I had Scotch on my 21st birthday.
You're weird.
I also carried somebody home that night.
Right.
It wasn't me.
Sure, undercover judger. I guess we'll have to cross that bridge when it happens.
It's a weed-infused Scotch.
Weed-infused Scotch. I'm sure it's coming.
All right, one more.
Last article, which
sustainable.
So cool article about Bruichladdich. Awesome. Talking about
look at that oysters. Yum.
Get rid of that. We don't want your notifications. Okay, so they're talking about Bruichladdich had just got this new certification that is highly coveted about referring to them as being sustainable, and it's a little bit misleading in the fact of what they're doing. But basically, B Corp certification. Why does it matter? It's a designation that a business is meeting the highest standards of verified performance, accountability, and transparency on a range of factors encompassing everything from employee benefits to charitable giving. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. I'm not nothing against all that. Well, what's that have to do with my Scotch?
Sounds like ESG.
Anyway, you scroll down, and some of the things that Bruichladdich is doing is they're breaking the stigmata of tradition by using these colored bottles so that they don't have to add coloring. Oh, okay, cool. I'm down with that. Because I don't want coloring.
There's probably more paint on that bottle than there's coloring in the whiskey.
Right. Okay. What else are they doing? They're doing 1 or 2 different things when it comes to that. They're not using chill filtering anymore. That's a bad thing. So we'll just bottle at 46 and not have to do it. And
I mean, I like that.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Of course,
makes you
the
better whiskey.
article misleads you a little bit. Scroll up just a hot second. Right here. The second practice is done with chill filtration. See, when bottling is at 40%, those oils can cause cloudiness. Yeah, well, I don't think this bottle of Bruichladdich is bottled at 40%. I think it's bottled at 46%.
Well,
No, that's what they're saying. But that's not the Bruichladdich way.
Well, how about
Bruichladdich
this
way
though?
doesn't do that.
If you are coloring the bottle so you don't see the whiskey, then you don't have to chill filter.
Anyway.
Well, it's going
Because you
to,
can't see the cloudiness.
it'll get cloudy in your glass.
Yeah, but that's too late.
Well,
You already bought it.
So the fact that Brand achieves all of this while running at 100% green electricity.
that's cool too. So I'm not trying to take anything away from what Bruichladdich is doing. I honestly, when I read the article, I was a little bit taken back with the fact that the article is completely and utterly trying to dissuade tradition from Scotch. Like tradition's a bad thing. We need to forget all this and forget about all the tradition and the taste and go and start doing green electricity and paint bottles. And I'm like, time out. Let's all make a step towards that direction, but don't take don't screw the whiskey up.
Well, and if they got rid of chill filtration, it'd be like 80% of the whiskey in the world would go away.
Right. And another thing that does they point out and they celebrate it in this article is that this particular bottle is done in batches. So in other words, this bottle is not the same as this bottle is not the same as. That's cool. I get it. I'm a huge single cask guy, SMWS fan, right?
Right.
But at the same token, that's also something that you need to know as a consumer going up front. And if you don't know what that means and you buy a bottle and then you go back 6 months later and get your next bottle and you're like, well, this don't taste like the last one.
Well, so I just did a whiskey training class for some of my staff, and we talked through some of that because we were talking about the difference between a small batch bourbon or a single cask Scotch and like a Jack Daniel's or a Jim Beam.
Sure.
Because I mean,
huge difference.
These are servers that don't drink whiskey. They don't need to know. But so we talked through it, and I was like, look, Jack Daniel's tastes like Jack Daniel's every single time. It doesn't change. It is what it is. I was like,
but there's value in that.
Right.
Yes,
But
there
I
is.
was like, that gets people on the brand. Like they like that particular flavor. I was like, and then you get up into higher ranges of a specific distillery, and then the flavors vary. And I was like, so a whiskey connoisseur that's coming in here is trying a bottle because they are looking for flavors they haven't had before, or they're looking for something that they haven't tried. Like it's almost like a treasure hunt at that point, right?
Totally.
Like I was super excited with the 2 that we tried tonight. Well, 3, because very unique flavor profiles.
Oh,
like
they're
it's
totally
super fun.
Fun as shit.
Right? Like, because you get tired of trying a whiskey and you're like, oh, well, that tastes like all the other whiskeys I just had. And so I tried to explain to him, when you've tried 10 whiskeys, every whiskey tastes new. When you've tried 1,000 whiskeys, everything tastes the same. And so you're looking for those flavors that you haven't experienced yet. And so, it was a fun talk that way. But I agree. I think you have to do some consumer education at that point, because if that's your entry level and somebody comes and they're like, this is really great, and then they go buy another bottle and they're like, is this one bad? Like this one doesn't taste like. You've got to explain to them that it's going to taste different.
It's a batch,
and
it's been corked.
And you better make sure that they understand that, or they're not going to go buy a third bottle.
Right.
Correct.
So just a couple of things that's happening in the Scotch world that we haven't really had a chance to catch up on in the last month or so. So next week we are on point to get King of the Hill. I would like to get 2 battles. We'll see what we've got as far as contenders. Still trying to hunt down a couple bottles that I ordered and paid for and just haven't shown up. What else?
That feels like a donation and not a purchase.
That's not how that's going to go down. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, because those weren't. It's no joke.
Aside from that, I don't know if we'll be at the OG bar or down at Drew's. Drew's probably not going to be here next week. I think he's on vacation, so we'll probably be here, and that's cool. That's fun. But until then, we will start talking about on Patreon a Starlight thing. And
September 14th.
September is
that day.
Yep. Leanne, let's try to make sure you can be there. But I think we've got interest here locally, so
it won't be quite as hot then either, which is kind of nice.
It'll be fun.
It can be hot there. So
aside from that, guys, man, thanks for bringing the French.
Cheers to that.
That was pretty
Cheers.
cool, dude. Yeah, that was fun too. I have to thank Katie. To all you, happy Thursday.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, I didn't.
Is Andrew got the outro?
No,
spot out?
here we go. Wait.
3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1.